Before we get started, the council just met in closed session regarding one item, and there is nothing to report at this time. So good evening, and thank you for viewing the April 15th meeting of the Arcata City Council. The council meeting is being held as a hybrid meeting with both in-person attendance and teleconference access via Zoom. The City of Arcata acknowledges that the lands we are located on are the unceded ancestral lands of the Wiyot tribe. The land that Arcata rests on is known in the Wiyot language as Gudini, meaning over in the woods or among the redwoods. Past actions by local, state, and federal governments removed the Wiyot and other indigenous peoples from the land and threatened to destroy their cultural practices. The City of Arcata acknowledges the Wiyot community, their elders both past and present, as well as future generations. This acknowledgement seeks to aid in dismantling the legacy narratives of settler colonialism. If you would like to join us, please join me in the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Will the city clerk please call the roll?
Mayor White,
Present.
Vice Mayor Atkins Salazar,
Here.
Councilmember Matthews,
Here.
Councilmember Schaefer,
Here.
Councilmember Stillman,
Present.
all present.
I'd like to, if it's possible, make a motion to, on new business, move item D to the top of new business.
I'll second.
Do we need to do a roll call on that, or?
No, it's not a roll call vote. Thank you.
Great, all right. So, if,
We do need a vote, though.
oh, okay. So all in favor, say.
Aye.
And I am aye, so motion passes. Great, thank you. If you'd like to make a comment during the meeting, either for an individual item or during the second oral and written communication period under Agenda Item 11, there are 3 ways to do so. If you are here in person, please line up behind the podium when the item you would like to speak on is accepting public comment. If you are logged on to Zoom, please raise your hand when it is time for public comment on the line you wish to speak on. And if you are on the phone, press star 9 on your phone to raise your hand. And when it is time, you will be prompted to dial star 6 on your phone. For these items, we will be taking in-person public comment first, then we will move to online comments. We will not be going back and forth, so if you are wanting to comment, please line up at the podium or raise your electronic hand as soon as that public comment is requested for that item. All right, so that brings us to ceremonial items. Proclamation in recognition of World Tai Chi Day, Saturday, April 25th, 2026. It will be accepted in person by Doug Carroll, and this certificate of appreciation will be read by Council Member Stillman.
Thank you. In recognition of the World Tai Chi Day, Saturday, April 25th, 2026. Whereas the World Tai Chi Day is now established in hundreds of cities in over 80 nations annually, and whereas Tai Chi has been called medication in motion by Harvard Health publication for a myriad of health benefits it offers, and whereas numerous studies have pointed to the benefits of Tai Chi for stress relief, improved balance and coordination among the elderly, as well as improved behavior for adolescents with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. And whereas the world of Tai Chi is meant to bring the community together to learn more about this gentle exercise, a series of mindful, relaxed movements that people of all ages and fitness levels can practice to improve health by boosting the immune system, increasing vitality, longevity, and well-being. Now therefore be proclaimed that the City Council of the City of Arcata hereby recognizes World Tai Chi Day in the City of Arcata, Arcata Plaza at 10 a.m. on Saturday morning, April 25th, 2026, and encourage all residents to attend and visit theworldtaichi.org to learn more. It's dated April 15th, and it's signed by Mayor White. And Doug, who has practiced Tai Chi for 30 years now, is accepting this. You can
Okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Thank you to the council for this very meaningful recognition. It's Tai Chi, as you may know, one of the basic tenets is that the body, mind, and spirit are not three different things, but three aspects of the same thing, each human being. So the the phrase Tai Chi is translated from the Chinese as supreme ultimate, and supreme ultimate at what? Well, at bringing those three things together. So that's the whole purpose of it. And again, my deepest gratitude to all of you. Thank you. And please come down and join us a week from Saturday, 10 a.m. to noon in the plaza, free, open to the public.
Thank you, Jack.
That brings us to a proclamation in recognition of Bike Month, May 2026. And it will be Dalton Lee and Wildland Tours who will be accepting this. And this certificate of appreciation will be read by Vice Mayor Atkins Salzar.
Whereas bicycling addresses the global problems of climate change, car dependence, and air and noise pollution, it reduces traffic, parking congestion, and noise, and increases physical activity and public health, such that investments in active transportation make communities healthier, more vibrant, and more family-friendly. And whereas the City of Arcata has adopted Complete Streets policy and goals to advance a bicycle-friendly, active transportation network throughout town, investing in active infrastructure such as the Humboldt Bay Trail, Arcata Annie and Mary Trail, and designated bike lanes, as well as Arcata's Bike Share program. And whereas the month of May is National Bike Month, May 6th is Bike and Roll to School Day, and May 11th through 17th, 2026 is Bike to Work or Bike to Wherever Week. And whereas the City and the Bike Month Humboldt Coalition encourage residents and visitors to join the community in supporting and enjoying Bike Month activities in May, namely the annual Arcata Kids Bike Rodeo happening on Saturday, May 30th, 10 a.m. to noon at the Fuente Nueva Charter School Playground. And now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the City Council of the City of Arcata that May 2026 is Bike Month throughout Arcata. The Council encourages everyone to participate in Bike Month activities, encourages the installation of bicycle parking and other facilities to support Arcata's growing number of bicyclists, and encourages people to bicycle as a means of transportation this and every month.
On behalf of bike enthusiasts, commuters, gravel riders, mountain bikers, youth searching for freedom on two wheels, and everyone else that rides, I accept this proclamation and encourage everyone to ride a bike. My name is Dalton Lee. I started Wild Trail Tours 6 years ago, and I also perform the maintenance on the City of Arcata Bike Share program, which will be introducing 10 new e-bikes and totaling 60 bikes and 12 stations locally. I'm excited for this proclamation of May as Bike Month to build community and to promote safe biking in our neighborhoods. May will be the annual Bike Month not just for Arcata, but for the nation. At a time where division through our country can feel insurmountable, there are still activities that we can connect through and with. Biking is one of those activities. The change of pace from driving provides a rider the opportunity to be a part of their environment, not just careen through it, but to live and feel alive along the journey. Riders feel this whether the bike ride is down the street to a cafe or 100 miles through the redwood forests and our magnificent coastlines. When you ride a bike, remember to wear a helmet. Riding with a helmet is the main life-saving piece of equipment for cyclists and reduces the risk of traumatic injury significantly. Through the City of Arcata's dedication to creating more off-road bike paths, cyclists are safer and riding is more enjoyable. I commend the city for their work in creating off-street bike paths and look forward to more connectivity and ridership through the growth of our bikeable routes. In May, events such as the bike rodeo mentioned at Fuente Nueva on the 30th, the bike celebration fair at Jefferson Community Center on the 16th, and the iconic and unique Kinetic Grand Championship on May 23rd to the 25th create opportunities to celebrate being healthier, happier, and environmentally friendly through biking together. Let's all find a way to celebrate Bike Month in May and let community and sustainability grow. Thank you again for the Bike Month proclamation, and may we all find joy, safety, and freedom in the act of riding a bicycle.
Thank you for that. Okay, so that brings us to reports by commission or committees. Can we receive an annual report from the Wetlands Creek Committees? The annual report from Chair Emma Held from the Wetlands Creek Committee. Welcome.
Hi. Thank you. Hi. My name is Emma Held. I am the acting chair of the Wetlands and Creeks Committee. And I know we are well into the year 2026, but I would like to give a report on what our committee completed in 2025. So early on in 2025, we established our committee goals for funding year 2025. I won't go through all of them in great detail, but essentially just to support city staff with different implementation projects pertaining to wetlands and creeks, to maintain our presence and involvement in the Measure A ad hoc group and revisit those priorities. Continue partnering with Cal Poly Humboldt students to focus on improvement projects. And then again, just providing recommendations to city staff for wetlands and creeks related items. So with those goals in mind, in 2025, we did receive a presentation from David Loya about the local coastal plan. We provided comments and ultimately made a recommendation to the city to approve those updates. We received regular updates from city staff on progress of restoration projects, including the Annie and Mary Trail connectivity project, sea level rise, vulnerability assessment, provided input for the sea level rise adaptation plan, grant funding opportunity, Jolly Giant Creek restoration planning efforts, Jacoby Creek restoration planning project, and we also provided assistance to Scott McBain, who's a local community member, in installing a data logger in Jolly Giant Creek that measures water level, turbidity, dissolved oxygen, temperature, and connectivity, which is super cool. And we also provided assistance for a few Cal Poly Humboldt capstone classes, one in environmental resources engineering and another in environmental science and management. We attended city council study sessions and provided updates on what we have been working on and received updates from other committees as well. We received a presentation from Cal Poly Humboldt fisheries professor Darren Ward about fish and water quality monitoring studies in our urban streams, Janes and Jolly Giant Creek. And that water quality monitoring is funded by Measure A. We also, just sort of a little tidbit about that, there was monitoring also conducted on Beath Creek in the city's Baylands property, and surveyors found juvenile coho and cutthroat trout. Juvenile coho are also found in Janes and Jolly Giant Creeks. We also received a presentation from Wiyot Tribal staff member Marissa McGrew on sampling efforts in our local waterways, specifically for the chemical 6-PPDQ, which is a tire anti-degradant that comes from roadways and can be have a really negative impact on juvenile coho salmon. And so, as I mentioned, we wanted to maintain a our involvement with Measure A, the Open Space, Parks, and Trails Special Tax. And so the water quality and fish monitoring that I mentioned were both funded through Measure A. So that was really wonderful to see. And that was about it for 2025.
Is that all?
Yeah.
That was a very extensive report. Thank you. Does anyone have any questions or comments for Emma?
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so that brings us to staff reports. Can we receive an update from the city engineer, Netra Khatri, on the city's paving projects, please?
That was very fast. Good evening, council member and member of the public. As we are planning our annual paving project, we just wanted to give you a quick update. I know we have a very busy agenda, so we'll be very brief, and we'll just want to give you a quick synopsis of what we plan to do this year. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. So I have one of our engineer who's working on the project, Ryan. He will be giving a quick presentation on this, our annual paving project.
Thank you, Netra. Thank you, council. Thank you, members of the public. Okay, there we go. So yes, the annual pavement maintenance project this year will encompass a few different areas throughout the city. Working from the north, we'll be paving Boyd Road from Gentoli Lane to the city limit. And then headed south, we're planning to pave Ross Street between Grant and Sunset. EYE, that's EYE Street. We call it EYE instead of I, not to be confused with the letter I Street. From the end at Grant, including the portion of Grant from J, to the end and the portion of Todd Court that is not yet newly paved. Fickle Hill from Bayside Road to Park Avenue, known as Little Fickle sometimes, and Shirley from Patrick Court to Beverly. And we are also trying to work it into the budget to pave LK Wood between Granite and St. Louis. And move on to some close-up images for a visual. And these are some of the sidewalk improvements we'll be making as well, in addition to paving where it's adjacent to the work areas. This is Little Fickle Hill right here where we have some upheaval by tree roots. The Boyd Road, this is actually an image of West End Road. We're planning on installing buffered bike lanes on Boyd Road that will look more or less just like these. Planning on Ross Street to address some of the non-ADA compliant issues that we're currently experiencing on the sidewalks in addition to the paving. One being this corner at the corner of Sunset and Ross, where we have multiple utilities right here in the curb ramp area. And also where you see telephone poles and utility poles right in the middle of the sidewalk. We'll be doing some bulb outs around those as well. And we're also considering putting a speed hump. We're still trying to figure out if that's feasible. That's through, we've had a lot of public comment on wish for one of those over there. So we're exploring that possibility as well. As we move over to Grant, and Todd Court, we're planning some sidewalk infill. Some of you might know from walking this stretch right here and in this little corner right here. This is the corner of Todd and EYE. And this is EYE right here as well. Here is a plan view of the working plans that we're, this would be that same sidewalk infill area that you can see right here. Working its way down to a crosswalk with a bulb out and some ADA improvements here. We have some more utility poles that we'll need to create clearance around as well, and that would create some connectivity to, here's what a rendering of that looks like here. It's somewhat rough, but I think tells the story more or less. And the goal here is to create connectivity from Sunset around the back way if you're coming from Sunset all the way to the Annie Mary Trail. And here's over here where you can see Larson Park and Annie Mary Trail here. Also, this seems like an okay time to talk about it because we had learned about these recently through some pedestrian safety workshops that we had locally. We're not sure if we're going to be able to work it into this project, but we did want to sort of bring it into the public conversation that this is something that we're considering. They're called advisory bike lanes and also known as edge lane roads. It is a somewhat lesser known traffic pattern that is seen in the United States. It's more common in Europe and some places, but it's essentially a traffic pattern that explicitly provides pedestrian and cyclist priority on the streets, whereby there is no center lane, center line, and there's two edge lane lines. And when there are bikes in the lane, the cars yield, let the bikes pass, and then they can move over if there's no one else in that lane. So we're still trying to figure out how to implement this. I think there's some chatter about it in our department, and we like it, but we're still trying to figure out how to implement it and how to implement it wisely, and also with ample, support from everyone that would be needed. Here is just a little bit more about edge lane roads. I won't read it right off the slide for you, but. And this is what a sort of tester would look like if you were to imagine, a sort of test scenario. And that's the annual pavement maintenance project presentation that we've got for you today.
So I don't want to maybe take more time, but I think we can talk about the streets all maybe for 1 hour. Every year we do annual paving project. Last year we didn't spend a lot of money on our paving project because we were just doing in-house work and the small projects because we wanted to have a bigger project this year. So this year we are planning to do last year's budget and this year's budget, trying to combine and do a bigger project so we can pave more streets. So this year you will see a lot of different locations. We're trying to cover more area, and we're planning to do around $2 to $2.5 million project for paving for this year. So that's the goal. And this is about not only by the contractors, our city crew, they also pave the streets. So I think, we have a great team, street crew and utility crew. Every 3 to 4 times a year, they team up together and try to pave the streets. So the reason our streets are in good condition because of our guys are also doing the great work on the street beyond the contractors. And every time when I do this presentation, I just want to maybe also show you where we stand. PCI, Pavement Condition Index. That's how we rate our streets condition nowadays. Right now our city-wise, it's at 58, which is here. 10 years ago it was 69. Definitely it's going down. We want to be where somewhere between 60, 64. I think that's the ideal goal. 70 is perfect, but I think that's a hard goal to reach. We would need to spend $5 million a year to get the level of 70 PCI, but our goal is to maybe keep 60 to 64 PCI. So we are doing okay, but I think definitely we need to maybe put more funding on the streets so we could have PCI of 64. So with that, we will take any questions if you have. Otherwise, we will have next update on our waterline project. Thank you.
Thank you. Lots of great projects, so I'm excited. I did have a quick question. If we do the advisory bike lane, where would that be implemented again?
The edge lane road, we just wanted to introduce the concept. We were
Okay.
hoping to do that on EYE Street, but
Okay.
we are not fully ready yet. So but, in future, it will be mainly on the local streets where there's not a lot of traffic.
Sure. Thank you for that clarification.
Thank you.
Other questions, comments, clarification? Nope. All right, that was an excellent presentation. Thank you very much. All right, so can we receive an update now on the steel water line replacement project from City Engineer Netra Kache, please?
Definitely. I'm going to hand this to Steve, but I just want to maybe mention something. It's been exactly today, it's been a year when we awarded the project. On April 16, 2025, we awarded this project to Makala Construction and we started the work. It's been exactly 1 year and we are at 50% mark. There's more, 50 more to do, but before I go in detail, I'll let Steve talk about the project. So, Steve.
All right, thank you. I'm here to present about the steel water line replacement project. It is a citywide replacement project targeting about 10% of the water infrastructure in the city, approximately $11 million self-funded through city funds. And we're targeting some of the oldest infrastructure in the city. We have some of these, I call them artifacts, and say that because some of these components are likely over 100 years old. And these are sections of steel water line, which are very difficult to not only maintain, but even to repair if there's damage or a leak because of the differences in material and just how antiquated these components are. We're also targeting areas that were replaced more recently in the 60s and 70s, but are also approaching the end of their service life and are having history of needing repairs, as well as sections of thin-walled PVC installed in the 80s that aren't quite as durable. And in those areas with the newer lines, quote unquote, which are still old, we are targeting areas with undersized lines which compromise firefighting capacity in those areas. And here are some photos of the existing infrastructure. And at the top is an old galvanized steel service line. So this was a service that extended from the city's water main to the meter. And we're not able to document if there's leaks on that kind of infrastructure because it is behind the meter. And so when you're looking at services like these, they are leaking, gallons of water per minute or hour, and we are suffering losses which aren't accounted for, which impacts costs to the ratepayers as well as the city. And then to the right of that image is a photo of the interior of one of these artifacts, where you can see the amount of scaling that is built up and compromises the conveyance capacity of the pipe. And below that is a record drawing that shows when most of the steel water line was replaced within the city. But at the intersection there, it basically stopped. There was either for traffic or other issues, they did not replace that section. And so these are the donut holes we're targeting with this project. There are still close to 100-year-old, if not over 100-year-old valves and piping. And so with the new infrastructure, we do have some of the newer pipe in blue on the table there. It is PVC C900, so there's a reduction. It's pressure rated. It's a much thicker plastic. There's reduction in breaks and loss of water. We're also installing upgraded control valves so that we can isolate sections. One of the biggest challenges our utility crews face if they're responding to a break or a leak is they may have to, quote unquote, chase the isolation valves to another block or potentially 2 blocks over. When these valves are 100 years old, they just don't work. And the upgrades for the sizing of the fire services or the water lines, in several of our subdivisions, increasing them from 4 inches to 6 inches brings it to modern firefighting capacity. And as part of that, we're also adding fire hydrants to meet the coverage requirements, and that actually has a side benefit of reducing homeowners insurance rates. So if you do see a new fire hydrant in front of your house, notify your insurance company and get your discount. The other benefit is there is increase in water pressure and flow to several neighborhoods, and this is most apparent for multifamily residents. Here's some photos of the new infrastructure, new fire hydrants, new water meters, and a new control valve cluster. I just want to discuss the water meters. I'm sure is brought up before with respect to our application for a grant. These meters have smart reads, and so they communicate every 15 minutes, and so we have up-to-date information. Of the 331 meters that was installed in the past, since the beginning of the project, we were able to detect leaks within a month in 12 of them. Recently, in the past couple of weeks, one of our business owners received a water bill that was up to date now with the most recent since the new meters were installed, and we were able to identify a 45-gallon per hour leak that was not read from the old meter because of the age of that meter. Once the new meters are installed, you can actually log into or create an account on ionwater.com using your information, and you're able to sign up for leak notifications. So you're immediately notified if the meter detects atypical usage. It's actually very important for troubleshooting. It helps the plumbers figure out the issue because they can shut the meter off at the building and they can determine if that leak is still ongoing in real time. And that will tell them if the leak is occurring inside the building itself or somewhere between the building and the meter itself. And of course, there's been significant impacts associated with this project, impacts to parking in the shoulders, and then also road closures, openings in the sidewalk that have to be plywooded over, temporary water, and water service interruptions. This is a challenge. It impacts a lot of businesses, impacts residents. We've been doing our best to communicate all this information with business owners. We did have some stumbles earlier on in the project as it transitioned into downtown Arcata, but at this point we have a 2-week notice as far as the traffic impacts on our GIS website. We also are coordinating with business owners directly. We've sent notices also to short-term stay and vacation rental owners as well, notifying them about the project. And up-to-date information can be obtained on the city's current construction project website. There's a map of the project area. There is a GIS map of current road closures as well as upcoming road closures. And we're coordinating directly again with businesses to help minimize the impact. This past week, we had paving to close up the trench that was from the water main project along 14th Street between G and F Street. And we coordinated the business owners as well as the contractor to ensure that paving occurred when the businesses, Cafe Phoenix and the Pho Huang, during Monday when the businesses were closed. So we're trying to be strategic as we can to minimize impacts to businesses. And I also want to outline, we've been having a very good relationship with the contractor who's been doing the project, and we've also received good feedback from the public about how friendly and helpful they have been. One of the neighbors on Stewart Avenue actually bought lunch for the whole crew, spent $500 to buy lunch for the crew. So it's been a good relationship there. I also want to highlight, upcoming water system projects that we're targeting 2027, 2028, the water meter replacement project, seeking grant funding for that. And again, the purpose would be to ensure that these aging meters are replaced so that we can actually capture the actual usage and help address leaks. And then we're also targeting in 2028 another phase of this water line replacement project, targeting any sections of old pipe that we've identified, as well as additional sections of historically failing pipe.
Anything else to add?
Well, I could add more. Like, this is an amazing project. We are learning, definitely. As Stephen said, I think we stumbled early on. We were learning, but later on we made some improvements, and we saw the results. Like, one of the person, like Stephen said, bought a lunch, gave $500 cash to the contractor to eat lunch. At Lowe's Bagels, they bought the lunch for all the working team members. So I think it's a good working relationship, and I think we always say, we all hear complaints, but we also hear a lot of good stuff that contractor is doing, communicating with the business owners. So I just want to commend the whole team, Steve's team, our utility team. It's hard to work without our team being called. Like, sometimes contractor doesn't know what's going on. Our guys know, so we have to call them, but they have their other work. But to call them and try to help us, it's tough, but we are able to do that, work in the system. So it's all learning process for us. It's great to give an update. So thank you.
Thank you both, Steve and Netra. I think that the lunch speaks volumes, and I'm thrilled to hear that you're able to pivot, and it's lessons learned as you go along. And I am also thrilled to hear that we can get online and keep your eye on the water. Who knew that you could do that? That's pretty cool. So you could identify a leak, find out if it's on your side, if it's between the street, or where that is. So does anybody have anything to add? All right.
Well,
Yes,
can I
please.
say something? Okay.
Absolutely.
So I think in one hand, it's got to be really beneficial for the city as far as the city employees who are called out often on weekends, nights, and so forth because we have leaks somewhere in the city, and being able to take as much of that away so that we don't always have to have people in emergency in order to do that, which is also having our employees working overtime or on whatever it might be. And I think it's much more valuable for us to do this, and then we can save funds elsewhere. So I thank you for that. And it's been great because I live on H Street, and so I've been able to watch. And, one night I got up and I looked, and now I look at your pipes down there, and I can see there was just a stack of them, one after another, lined up in the street. And I thought if I told anyone that, they would think I was delusional in the middle of the night. But now I look at this and I see this is actually what I was seeing lined up on the street, whereas they took it out and replaced it with something else. So thank you very much.
I just wanted to share another story off that comment. Was in 2 instances on this project, we had water main failures basically a couple weeks to a month ahead of when those mains were supposed to be replaced. So that was unfortunate, but at least we know we're targeting the right areas with this project. And I also wanted to state that when our crews respond to a water main break and they're repairing it, they do not replace the entire section. They're putting a Band-Aid on that section of main. So they come and put a segment and then they couple it together with the old pipe. And so it doesn't fix the problem. And so this is the type of work, the work we're doing today with this replacement project is what will address these issues in the long term.
And I have to make an assumption you will not find any of the old redwood pipes during this, but you could.
I would love to find a piece and add it to the collection.
Well, I know where there are a couple of pipes right now that you could demonstrate what we used to have, but nevertheless, I'm hoping that they are long gone by now. Thank you.
All right. Thank you both again. All right. So that brings us to oral and written communication. The city values your comments. The public comment period allows people to address the council on matters not on the agenda. This early section of public comment is limited to 15 minutes, and speakers are limited to 2 minutes each. If you prefer to have a full 3 minutes for your time for public comment, this item is continued at the end of the meeting under item 12, where speakers are granted 3 minutes. Please note, pursuant to the Brown Act, the council cannot discuss or take action on items not listed on the agenda. The council may respond to statements. There will also be time to provide public comments specific to each item when that item is being reviewed by the council. So please make your way to the podium.
Ready for me? All right.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Isaac West. I'm one of the co-workers at Full Cycle Compost, co-owners, I mean to say. And I'm here with my co-owners, Olivia and Skylar. And if you haven't heard of our company, we're the ones biking around town, picking up food waste from residents and businesses and composting it at local farms, gardens, and schools. We also work with local schools to educate the future generations about composting. I'm here today to talk about the future of our business and that of other local composters and how the city of Arcata can help food scraps to stay a local resource for local farms and gardens. We're excited that Senate Bill SB 1383 is coming into effect this year in July. It will mean that so much more of Arcata's food waste is composted and made into a resource instead of producing methane in landfills. Great. We are glad Recology is stepping up to collect much of the city's food scraps, as local composters are not positioned to handle that much compost. We are here today to ask the city of Arcata to step up and make sure Arcata's established small businesses, Full Cycle Compost, the local worm guy, are able to continue to thrive as Recology begins collecting much of the city's food scraps. Specifically, we are asking that in your negotiations with Recology, you make sure if residents choose us to collect and compost their food scraps, they don't have to also pay Recology for that same service. Additionally, we're asking for the city website to clearly state residents can still compost with a local composter after Recology begins collection. It would be very challenging to retain or gain new customers if folks are required to pay the Recology fee on top of choosing the local service. If in that landscape, we would cease to exist as a business. For the sake of time, I'm going to pass this off to my coworker, Olivia.
Thank you.
So thank you, and we are so grateful for the city's support over the years, including listing us as a composting option on the city website, which we've gotten a number of customers that way. Also allowing us to compost in the earth tubs at Bayside Park Farm in exchange for composting the food scraps here at City Hall. And passing Ordinance 1560 in December 2022, explicitly allowing local community composters like ourselves to continue to operate as Senate Bill 1383 comes into effect. We are asking for the city's support again today. So to be clear, our asks are: 1, in negotiations with Recology, make sure folks who choose local composters like us don't also have to pay Recology's fees. Or if they do, as a city, provide a refund when you see that they are composting with Full Cycle or another local composter. 2, make it clear on the city's websites and in any mailings that go out to residents that folks have the option to compost with us even after Recology begins collecting. 3, if this is not the right legislative body to bring these concerns to, please let us know who at the city we should be speaking with. And if there's relevant city council meetings we should come to when this topic comes up, when will they be? And 4, a number of our customers have also expressed interest in advocating for Full Cycle, and who should they contact to have their voices heard? Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay. If we could refrain, I do appreciate the sentiment, though. Next.
As you know, our species has caused a climate catastrophe and extinction crisis, which are accelerating and getting more severe. More than 40% of insects are gone, and there are billions less birds than there were in the 80s. Weed whackers and leaf blowers have only been around for a few decades, but are contributing to both extinctions and climate change. Weed whackers not only are killing insects and their habitats, yet they do not kill weeds. They are creating microplastics. Litter, both visible and hidden in tall weeds, gets chopped into smaller pieces and left there to disintegrate. I have talked with landscapers, and those who knowingly weed whack litter say it's not their job to pick it up. This weed whacked litter I collected in half an hour is just a minuscule fraction of styrofoam, plastic, and other toxic trash being weed whacked into microparticles every single day. We are breathing, drinking, and eating microplastics. We are in an emergency, and all life on Earth is at risk. Here is a quote from a recent article in the Associated Press about birds in North America going extinct. Cornell University conservation scientist Kenneth Rosenberg said the species declining fastest are often considered pests, such as starlings, crows, and sparrows. But if our environment cannot support healthy populations of these extreme generalists and extremely adaptable species that are tolerant of humans, then that is a very strong indicator that, oh man.
Thank you for your comment. Next.
Hello. First of all, thank you for paying so much attention to such an important need as this. I must say, It's obviously very important to upgrade this infrastructure. However, we happen to be in a pretty big economic crisis right now. And I'm not sure how easy it's going to be for people. I mean, I don't even have income. I haven't even recovered since my farm was annihilated by the bad laws that were passed. Plus, I'm chronically ill and I'm only 50. There's people who are in worse situations than me. It concerns me to have 100% increase.
So, I hate to
that's-
interrupt you, but you will actually have an opportunity. Are you talking about water rates?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Isn't that
And
what this
there's a
hearing is for?
specific time that we will allow you to do that. This is actually time for things not on the agenda. New business coming up shortly.
Can you
Promise.
just take that comment, please? Because I have to go.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, that is what my main concern is. Thank you very much. And I just think it's irresponsible not to consider people. We don't have the economic strength. Some people are like, yeah, no problem. They have a contracting job. A lot of people are going to Reading to get jobs. We're not in a super like flowing economic state right now. And I don't see anything. We want to talk about something non-water. Please look at other highly efficient tourism places and copy them. Enough futzing around with silly things. That's what we really want to do something that's not water related. That would be great. You already got my first comment. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time. Do we have anyone else in person that would like to make a comment on items not on the agenda? If not, do we have anyone online?
Yes, we have one hand raised online.
Okay, we will take that one person. Thank you.
Call in user 1, please go ahead. Call in user 1, please unmute yourself.
Hello?
Hi, we can hear
Can
you.
you hear me? Hi.
Yeah.
So,
I'm so sorry. Just 1 second here. I'm sorry, Mayor. I've just had a technical difficulty. I'm trying to fix this.
Oh, nope.
My apologies. Call in user 1. Can you please try unmuting yourself one more time?
okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. So I was calling because I've lived here for 20 years, and my dad, he always told me you can judge a community based off of how you treat the worst off of its population. And I appreciate the improvements going on with infrastructure lately, but in 2023, I watched that man choke to death in my arms. And I will say that shortly before then, he cried because there were certain parts of the town that simply weren't wheelchair accessible. Like the sidewalks are so narrow that with a wheelchair, he'd have to kick people off the road. And given the homelessness issue in our local community, sometimes there would be people trying to start fights with him for using the sidewalks. And I think, honestly, if our community is being judged by the way that we treat the worst off and stuff, our community has a lot more to be desired when it comes to the way we treat the disabled. When it comes to, I hear people talk about land acknowledgements and giving proper acknowledgement for homes and stuff while we're kicking people out of their tents. The homeless people, as the woman before mentioned earlier about the economic issues in our local area, I can't blame those homeless people because it's so hard to get a job around here. There's no potential, and I just want this community to be better off. What can you do to make this community actually raise the bar for the worst off locals? End of comment.
Thank you for your comment. Okay, so that will now bring us then to the consent calendar. All matters on the consent calendar are considered to be routine by the City Council and are enacted in one motion. There are no separate discussions of any of these items. If discussion is required, that item is removed from the consent calendar and considered separately. A, approved to waive reading of the text and consent to read by title only for any ordinance on this agenda. B, approve the minutes of the City Council meeting of April 1st, 2026. C, biweekly report on disbursements. D, adopt ordinance number 1584, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Arcata repealing Article 12, Public Safety Committee in Chapter 3, Boards, Commissions, Committees, and Task Force of Title II, Administration of the Arcata Municipal Code. And E, approve the purchase of a submersible pumps and controls for the Xylem Water Solutions USA Incorporated in the amount of $413,173,036. Is that right? $36. And approve necessary associated related actions. Would any council member or staff like to remove an item from the consent calendar? Okay. Do we have any members of the public waiting to comment on any of the consent item calendars? If so,
Hi, my name's Joanne McGarry. I think it's item D about the Public Safety Committee being dissolved and an ordinance needing to come into place for that. And so I just wanted to say that I understand the need and desire and appropriateness perhaps now of not having a public safety committee, but as I mentioned at the last meeting, I do hope that if need be, the city is ready to implement another public safety committee or perhaps something like an oversight committee so that we are at the ready should the need arise and we want to take quick action on a very important safety issue. So I am all in favor of this happening now, but I want us to be prepared in the future if we need to be.
thank you for your comment. Do we have anyone online?
No, we do not.
Okay, so may I have a motion to adopt the consent calendar?
I would so move to adopt the consent calendar.
I will second.
Okay, so we have a motion from Councilmember Stillman and a second from Councilmember Schaefer. Is there any other discussion before we go to vote? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I say aye, so motion passes. Now that brings us to old business. Conduct a public hearing and consider resolution number 256-52, adopting water and wastewater adjustments for the year 2025-26 through 2029-30, and finding the adoption of the rates is exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act, CEQA. I am now opening the public hearing for this item. Can we begin also to have a staff report from Assistant City Manager and Finance Director Tabitha Miller, please?
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council, and the members of the public. We'll move quickly here. So I just wanted to start by acknowledging that on February 4th, 2026, the City Council authorized staff to begin to initiate the Proposition 218 process. That's part of the legally required by Constitution in California process to make sure that the public is involved. Just for the record, there were written notice of the proposed rate increases was provided to property owners and tenants of record within the city's service area at least 45 days prior to tonight's hearing, and the notice included the amount of the proposed rates, the basis upon which the rates were calculated, the reason for the proposed increases, and instructions on how to submit a written protest, and the date, time, and location of this public hearing. Tonight's action, we're going to conduct the public hearing, and so I believe that we should open the public hearing, and then we'll have a very brief staff report. I'm going to limit it because we've gone through this on a number of occasions with the City Council. We began talking about this back on October 15th, 2025. You received a pretty extensive report from our rate consultant, Bartle Wells and Associates. We've also, that came back on February 2nd and presented to the City Council, much of the same information, and expanded on that. And we had a public workshop on February 25th, which also included some of that same information, and we had staff and our consultant available to members of the public. We will hear public comment. We'll close public comment, and then you will direct the city clerk to count the results of the protest and announce whether a majority protest exists. We'll close the public hearing, and if, yes, the majority protest exists, then council cannot take action on the proposed rates. On the other hand, if no majority protest exists, council may consider adopting the resolution 25652, which is the rate increases for the 5-year period. So the protest participation is pretty important, and this is kind of the last chance anybody has to participate in this process. I do have papers and pens if anybody is interested, but only written protests count towards stopping the rate increase, so it must be in writing. It needs the name and signature of the party who is turning it in. Identify either your property address or your parcel number, and you're allowed one per parcel, and clearly state the opposition to the proposed water rates and wastewater rates, and that can be one sentence. It doesn't have to be complete, and it must be received during this public hearing before closure. And so if anybody is interested, please help yourself and make sure we get them to the city clerk before the end of the hearing. Just a couple considerations that I wanted just to remind the public and also City Council. If the rates are approved this evening, the adopted rates do establish the maximum. They are not absolute, and you certainly, over the next 5 years, can adjust those down or even skip increases if circumstances change and the financial situation is different. So that's always an opportunity for you. The rates cannot exceed the cost of providing the water or wastewater service. So at any point, if we look at our financial, it's never what they say. So again, if the rates exceed the cost at any point in time, we actually have to adjust those costs downward. We can't collect more than the actual cost. And sometimes that can be done by not having rate increases going forward or reducing those. And the idea is that it will be a proportionate cost recovery. So the idea is that it's fair and equitable to all categories. I made this short and sweet so that you can hear from the public. This is about hearing from those folks. It is a public hearing. I do want to say, though, that Bartle Wells is on the Zoom call, Eric Helgeson, who also did the presentations earlier, and I'm more than willing to answer any questions for City Council that you may have regarding the rates, the increases, or the process.
Okay, so do we have any questions or comments from council before we have the public comment on this item?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask a question because it was something that I was thinking about, because obviously the largest opposition that we're going to receive to this has to do with the financial burden of it and what is currently happening in our economic situation. And I wanted to ask if the city has, or have we looked into offering, something like PG&E does with their care program, low income discounts, or what, safeguards do we have in place to help folks that might be behind on their water bills or unable to pay those rates?
So I don't know that we opened the public hearing. I want to make sure that we did that.
We did in the very beginning, but
Okay, we
I
did.
can
I'm sorry.
open it again if we need to.
You did. Okay. Thank you. A little nervous. To answer Councilmember Schaefer, we did early on look at the possibilities, and many cities piggyback on the PG&E program. Basically, if you qualify for their CARES program, you would qualify if you have the ability to at a local level, and the discounts range from 5 to 20% depending on the entity. The challenge we have, and this is certainly something that the City Council can consider, and we can certainly look at putting in place, is that locally, we've been told by PG&E that approximately 50% of our population qualifies for the CARE program. And if you look at how our rates are made up, it's about 70% residential overall, the revenue that comes in, and 30% commercial. So if 50%, if 50% of that 70 qualifies, that's about 35% of the total income. And so even at a 10% reduction in those rates for those folks, it is about a $550,000 a year cost. There are a couple ways that you can pay for that. You can't use other rate revenue to pay for those programs, so you are limited to things like late fees and penalties, which is a little bit unfortunate because typically the folks who need the most help with their bills are the ones who are actually paying those penalties. The second way to do it is general fund or you create some other revenue source to do it. I will tell you that for us, the penalties between both our water and wastewater funds in a given year are somewhere probably together combined are about $100,000 to $150,000. So we don't have a lot of current revenue that can be used for that, and we would have to look at alternative funding. The other option is to try to look at something outside of the city, look at nonprofits. Unfortunately, we have in the past had federal and state funding that helped us help folks with their utility bills. That money we don't have any available right now. So I am certainly open to looking at those with the city council and considering those as we come up on this next budget year. But that it isn't the easiest thing to do.
Thank you. That was a thorough answer, and we can, I guess, look into it as we find other opportunities.
We can certainly, like I said, raise it again during the budget process.
Sure. Okay. Stacy.
And then for folks that are wondering what that the number is to stop us from forward motion in this, it's 2,521 written responses, and so how many have we received so far?
Thank you for reminding me of that. So I believe we had received 37 protests prior to starting the 218 process. And is it 29 that we've received as of today?
Yes, as of the start of this meeting, we're at 29.
Okay, so people that are wanting to protest it should still do that, because that's important that you are on the record with your thoughts. But we would need a deluge of those coming in.
Does anyone else have any questions? If not, members of the public that would like to comment on this items, please, if so, line up at the podium now or raise your Zoom hand for public comment on this item. Do we have anyone online? Don't see anybody in person.
No, we do not have any hands raised online.
Okay. So at this time, we do not have a majority protest.
We would ask, we would direct our city clerk to actually officially report that back out.
Absolutely.
Thank
So
you.
could you count up the results of the protests received from property owners and account holders, and then please announce whether the majority protests exist. I got 66.
Okay. And to the members of the audience, if you have a letter of protest, please bring it up front and I will add it to the tabulation.
And while she's collecting, I just want to say that if you, for those, I hope that people have watched our previous meetings, because there wasn't one person on council or staff that was excited about doing this. We know the community in which we live and how expensive everything is. And so, although, that doesn't necessarily change the dollar amount, that is what's in our hearts. So this was not, has not been an easy discussion.
Yeah, and I want to add too, and I know never read the comments, but it seems online too. It's just a misconception, and I know Tabitha already touched on this with the Proposition 218 process, but that it is a cost of service model, and this is something I know from being on the Energy Authority also, is that you cannot charge rates beyond what you need to provide the service and to fix the infrastructure and to, along with all of that. And so it's not to, get anybody an inside deal or anything, or it's not to raise anybody's salaries. It's to literally replace infrastructure that has historically not been invested in. If you look, over the years of what councils have put into our water infrastructure. So it's landed in our lap because it's been pushed down the road.
Thank you. I just want to remind folks that this is the most, and that if for some reason something came to fruition, we found state, federal funding, nonprofit grants, whatever that might look like, then we would pivot and adjust that, and it could definitely be lower. Is that correct?
It is, and something that you will see later on your agenda is the annual fee schedule. And so every year we bring those forward, and we will place whatever increases are being adopted tonight in those particular years. But it gives City Council an opportunity to take a look at those, evaluate those. It gives staff an opportunity to bring you opportunities that if those funds are not needed at the full rate amount, that they can either be reduced or even skipped for that year. So there will be an annual process where city councils will have an opportunity to evaluate whether or not those have to stay in place.
Well, and one other thing, speaking of like online comments, there is a lot of misinformation. And so just like the commenter that spoke earlier worried about a 100% increase in costs, it's not that. And I'm really sorry for the misinformation and that the grief that people are feeling. So even though it will go up, I don't think it's going up as much as folks think. If you look at the graph, wastewater and water are combined in the bill. So we get our bills and we just see it as our water bill, but it's only the water portion, not the wastewater going up, and it's not going up 100%. And Tabitha can elaborate on that if she would like.
So as you can see, again, I think it's really important to remember that the biggest increase is on the water side. And the first increase is an average of 23%, and that is a large amount. There's two things that are happening that will offset that on your total bill. One is that's only on 35% of your bill, and you can see it'll be $11.59 when that goes into place. The other thing that'll happen as of July 1st is that for residential, single-family residential homes, your sewer piece, the average amount is actually going to decrease. Currently, it's $88.95, and again, that's the average based on 500 cubic feet of water used on a monthly basis. That'll drop to $82.31, and that cap will be eliminated. So if you use more than 500 cubic feet of water in a month, you won't end up paying the extra usage you're paying now. So with those two factors in place, your increase initially will be 3.6% for the first year. I'm gonna switch to the next.
Could I ask a question on the,
Sure.
like a 5-year average? Is it like 14%?
It's so over the 5 years, it's actually your total bill will increase 39%.
Okay.
Or $53.
Okay.
So it'll go from where it's at today to it'll be almost equal water and wastewater at about $191.
Thank you. So are we at with the counting?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Mayor White. If you're ready, I can go ahead with the tabulation.
Thank you.
So prior to the initiation of the public hearing on February 4th, 2026, the city received 37 protests as Tabitha stated. Since the public hearing opened, we have received 31 protests, and that is as of this moment receiving protests during this meeting. So that being said, I'm reporting that this number is clearly less than the majority protest.
Thank you. Okay, so with that report, written protests received, I will close the public hearing. Do we have any final comments from council or a motion?
Well, I wanted to say, we also are dealing with our water meters, and we applied for a community development block grant because we know we have a lot of water meters that aren't functioning correctly. So so if someone happens to have a water meter that's not reading correctly, and when they get it replaced, if we were able to get this grant funding to start replacing water meters in Arcata, and it starts to read correctly, then it will be sort of a shock to see how much water is actually used. And we know right now that we have, how many meters do we have that you're tracking that aren't reading correctly, please?
Well, how many that aren't aren't reading correctly, that's probably an unknown number. We have isolated about 375 that we definitely need to check for usage.
So that's quite a few. So I don't know if any of the people that protested have, hopefully all their meters read correctly, but with this, hate to see water rate increases, and over the years I have seen them happen and we've had to do it. But I'm hoping eventually if we get our water meters replaced, then everyone will be actually paying for the water that they use, and so no one will be supplementing someone else. And I think that's a good goal that we have. And I know during our steel water pipe replacement, we're also replacing water meters. And so that's a tie-in, and so possibly a lot of the water meters that aren't reading correctly are going to be replaced during this process of the steel pipe replacement. I just wanted to mention that because it could have an effect on your water usage.
Thank you. Yeah, you'll be paying for what you use, so it'll be much more equitable all around. So, do I have a motion?
I will make a motion to adopt resolution number 256-52, establishing water and wastewater rate adjustments for the fiscal year 2025-26 through 2029-30, authorizing the city manager, assistant city manager, finance director, and environmental services director to implement the rates, update the master schedule of fees and charges, and make non-substantive corrections to the exhibits and complete all billing system updates, and find that adoption of the water and wastewater rates is exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act.
I'll second.
So we have a motion from Vice Mayor Stacy Atkins Salzar, and I'm sorry, who did the second? I did. Okay.
Someone else can do it. I just made a motion.
And a
second it.
second from Councilmember Stillman. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I'm an aye, so motion passes. Okay, so that now would bring us to new business, and we have a motion. Somebody was wanting to move.
We already did. Yeah.
It's already done, so I'm just going to go straight to item D. We're going to be holding a public hearing to consider abatement for the properties located at 4600 Valley West End Road, Arcata, assessor's parcel number 507-081-055, and adopt resolution number 256-55, ordering the abatement of a nuisance regarding 4600 West End Road. May we have a staff report from the building official, Joe Bishop, and Deputy Director of Environmental Services, Streets and Utilities, Doug Colbert, please.
Yes, thank you. It is recommended that the council open the public hearing, receive the testimony from the Deputy Director of Environmental Services, Streets and Utilities, and/or myself, receive the property owner's testimony, hear testimony of other persons, and close the public hearing.
Thank you. So do we have any questions or comments from council before I open the public hearing? Do we have any members of the public waiting to comment on this item? If so, please line up on the podium now or raise your hand on Zoom for a public comment on this item. Do we have anyone in person? Go ahead.
Oh, thank you. Well, after coming here tonight and listening to your water problems, I think mine's a little easier with everything you got going. But I'm the property owner of 4600, and I've got multiple valves throughout the city, but two of them failed. One was a 3-inch and one was an 8-inch. I called Ryan Rousseau Plumbing out of Blue Lake. He fixed the 3-inch and it passed. He then opened up the 8-inch and he found some particulates in that. But he didn't have the proper testing tools, he said, to test it. So I then called Maples Plumbing, and Maples Plumbing went out and tested it. And due to their showing what the result was, I barely passed by a pound. And then today I found out that city retested it and that I failed by a pound or two. So I guess I'm asking the city give me a week or two and we'll go ahead. We ordered the new valves, but since we passed, I didn't install them. But if I had an extension of a week or two, I could change the valve out. And if I may ask, though, if the city could test it when I was done, I'd appreciate that. So.
Okay, thank you. Can you, do we have,
Make sure we don't have any other comments.
And Joe can give a recommendation. The council has a latitude to grant a 30-day extension, and I think that's what we do. And I think the real key here is that we just need to make sure that this gets done. It does constitute a threat to public safety of the water supply, and you know, we know Bob and work with him. So I think we just want to make sure that that gets done. So I'm glad to hear the parts were ordered, and I'll have Joe provide that recommendation
Right.
for that extended period of time to get that
and
done.
I didn't hear if we had anyone else on Zoom wanting to make a comment.
No, we do not.
Okay, great, thank you. Sorry about that. So, we've,
You could just take the recommendation from the building official and then make your action. He'll provide you with the 3 options you could take, but I think at this point our suggestion would be to provide an additional 30 days. We always work to have voluntary compliance, so we're happy to have Mr. Fegus here to let us know what that status is.
So if we are not opening the hearing, then I will just go straight to the recommendations. You have the option to terminate the abatement, grant a limited one-time extension of no more than 30 days, or adopt the resolution we have presented.
okay, thank you.
So 30 days is enough to get this taken care of? All right, well then I'll make a motion to grant a limited one-time extension of 30 days.
I'll second it.
Okay, so we have a motion from Councilmember Matthews and a second from Councilmember Stillman, and if there's no discussion, go ahead. Oh, sorry. Yes,
I'd just like to speak to what,
please.
yes, we will be, as soon as we're notified, we have 8 testers that we have here on staff. So as soon as you're fixed and ready to go, just give me a call and we'll have somebody out there within an hour. So we'll take care of that. Yeah. Yep.
Thank you. All right, so all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I say aye, so motion passes. Okay, so oral and written communication. The city values your comments, the public, no. Oh, that's right, I'm ready to, yeah, we're done, we're going home. Okay, so back to introducing ordinance number 1586, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Arcata, amending the Arcata Municipal Code relating to cannabis consumption, lounge permits, standards, and restrictions. May I have a staff report from Community Development Director David Loya?
Yeah, good evening, Mayor and council members. I'm here with a member of my staff, Mari Pepper, who's an assistant planner with us, and she'll be giving the principal staff report on the ordinance number 1586. But I did want to just start with a little bit of a background. First, Mari's background. She is a rising star in planning. She came to us and asked for an internship, and within the first couple of weeks of working with her, I realized that if I wanted to keep her and to give her the tasks that I wanted to give her to really help the department out, I'd need to pay her for that. And so we brought her on as a temporary employee and has been working here with the intent to leave us in May. And so we've been trying to both wring every last drop out of her that we possibly can, but also give her some great experience in planning, experience that an assistant planner typically wouldn't be able to obtain, especially in such a short period of time. But Mari is really an amazing student of planning and a glutton for punishment. And so she put this ordinance together, drafted it. I worked closely with her to make sure that we had a good draft. White Brenners reviewed it and given their blessing and actually caught some critical issues. Our city clerk also found a couple of issues. So I want to thank everybody for the all team play on that one. And she's put the presentation together tonight and will be presenting to council. In her interview with Capitola, who's going to be her next gig, apparently they raised eyebrows when they heard that she was going to be presenting to you all. So wanted to let you know that she's up to the task, and if you have any hard questions, I might take them, but please feel free to grill her as you would normally. No pressure. No pressure. Thank you, Mari.
Yeah, thank you for that introduction. So I guess I'll just dive right into it. The purpose of this ordinance would be to amend the municipal code to clarify the city's authority to permit cannabis consumption lounges subject to the approval of a use permit, which would update the smoking restrictions, definitions, and exemptions consistent with state law. The amendments also clarify the city's authority to permit temporary cannabis consumption at special events through a special events permit, consistent with state licensing requirements and local approval processes. A little background, in 2016, the Medical Marijuana Innovation Combining Zone was created, which allowed commercial cultivation, manufacturing, distribution, and retail sales of cannabis. In 2018, the Arcata Land Use Code was amended, creating a permitting pathway for cannabis consumption lounges, but the municipal code updates were deferred pending evaluation of local intent and interest and demand. This ordinance establishes standards by defining cannabis consumption lounge consistently throughout the municipal code. It limits cannabis consumption lounges to areas in or attached to licensed retail or micro businesses, not visible from any public space. It requires that on-site consumption be expressly authorized by the city, and it aligns local smoking restriction exceptions with state law and the Arcata Land Use Code. The California Business and Professions Code authorizes local jurisdictions to permit on-site smoking, vaporizing, or ingestion of cannabis at licensed retail or micro business premises with local authorization. This ordinance relies on the statutory framework to clarify Arcata's regulations, ensure on-site consumption is permitted in a controlled, locally authorized manner. Several nearby jurisdictions allow cannabis consumption lounges, reflecting a growing trend among local governments. Some of these include Eureka, Ukiah, San Francisco, Sacramento, and Santa Cruz. The ordinance advances city objectives by providing regulated, enclosed locations for cannabis consumption to enhance public safety and livability, reducing conflicts and impacts caused by unregulated or public cannabis smoking. It improves consistency and enforceability of city regulations, and it supports economic development and local cannabis businesses. There are 2 local businesses, one existing operator and one prospective applicant, which have expressed interest in on-site cannabis consumption authorization. Currently, Humboldt Premium allows consumption via ointments, tinctures, edibles, or drinks, but they're not permitted to ingest cannabis through smoking or vaporizing. This ordinance supports local cannabis businesses in diversifying and expanding their operations. Amendments would also allow temporary on-site consumption at events such as CannaFest. Staff recommends the City Council receive the ordinance, open the item for public comment, and introduce ordinance number 1586. I move to introduce ordinance number 18. Oh, got it.
So just to close out, we did put the motion on the screen here if you wanted to have that. It's also in your staff report. The only couple of things that I would add is that there are also a couple of attachments in the staff report that kind of lay out a draft implementation of how we would roll this out. Businesses would still have to get a use permit in order to have the ability to open a smoking lounge. But then we would also have additional regulations and policies that we would use to implement those. What's in your packet right now isn't final. It hasn't been vetted. This is just a draft. But just to give you a sense, a flavor for what types of things might be included. So really all we're asking you to do tonight is to introduce the ordinance. We'll bring it back for adoption at your next meeting. And yeah, I think with that, if there are folks in the audience that want to comment on this, we'd encourage that.
So I am opening the public hearing. Anyone who'd like to make a public comment, make your way to the podium. Same with folks online. Do we have anyone? Thank you.
Evening, Council. My name is Misha Blacker, and I just wanted to voice my support for this ordinance. I think it'll be great for Arcata's economy, but also for our community because it'll provide a much-needed third spaces for people to meet. And so I just wanted to thank all the city staff that worked on this and thank the council for adopting it.
Thank you for your comment. Next.
Good evening. My name is Michael Betancourt. I am one of the partners in Pacific Paradise, one of the interested parties referenced earlier, and I too want to voice support for this ordinance. I do believe it would provide a safe space. I think it would actually indirectly put heads in beds, which we want to draw tourism into the city. I think it would give our 3 customer segments, each of whom are regularly asking for a place to consume, the opportunity to do that, because right now it doesn't exist in the city. So what we're hearing is that customers are actually leaving the city and staying elsewhere where they have access to lounges. So for all those reasons, I would urge you to vote to adopt this ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Next.
Good evening, council members. I am Jennifer Henson with Pacific Paradise, and I'm here to discuss tonight why I feel there is a need for consumption space. For me, it's about safe access and a safe space. The majority of our Arcata community lives in dorms at Cal Poly, living in apartments, either renting a room in a house or rentals. These all come with strict no smoking rules where one can be evicted from their living space. So allow us to create a place where people can meet up with friends before taking in a movie at the Minor, a few doors down, taking in a show over at Humbrew's, and I have yet to mention the Tourist. They are usually in hotels and often ask me personally, where can I smoke this? We have no real answers for them. We usually point them towards the alley and suggest that they keep a low profile. How about instead we offer a place where they can have a bit of a tasting like they do in Napa? We would be able to offer nothing but local flower that they could set up as a tasting as they get to do in Napa. So the possibilities are endless when including tourism, but a safe space is much needed for our community. So I appreciate you hearing me out. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Do we have anyone else in the public that would like to comment on this item? If not, do we have anyone on Zoom?
No, we do not.
Okay. Any final comments from council at this time?
I actually have 2 questions, but don't worry, they're not scary. I support this. But I wanted to know for the use permit, is it something that would come to council or is it done over the counter with the planning department?
The use permits go to the Planning Commission.
Oh, yeah, those guys. Okay. I was like, more hearings. Okay. And then, yeah, normal appeal processes if that happens and whatnot to us. Okay. And then I just also wanted to ask, which I kind of think I maybe know some of the ideas in my head already, but why not outside? Is that just to have, I guess, greater control over the smell and things like that? But
So Mari's done a whole lot more research on this than I have, and what I'd say is that we definitely want to look at that. I know when we have some spaces that were designed so that they were outside, so that they would kind of in anticipation of being able to have smoking lounges outside, and I know that when we were developing these regulations, we were way ahead of the state. And a lot has changed since that time. So, I guess what I'd say is that, I'll ask Mari to kind of comment on the portions of state law that suggest that it needs to be inside and contained. But I also want to stay open to the idea that, maybe we can find a way to negotiate through that in state law, in particular for businesses that have already created a space that was sort of designed around that concept initially. Mari, can you provide a little more context?
I don't think in state law it specifically says it cannot be outside. I think a couple of other local jurisdictions don't allow it to be outside, though.
Okay. We'll keep an open mind.
Yeah, so there will be a pathway to that eventually.
I don't want to guarantee that. We're looking into that. I think that's why I was suggesting the regulations that are in your packet are draft at this point. I think we reiterated some of those local regulations. I misunderstood and thought that that was based on state law. And so we'll definitely look into that. It seems real appropriate to me, especially, and I'm sorry, I forget the Humboldt Premium, I think, the old V&N. That's really appropriate as an outdoor space. There's really nothing else around it. There are no other people to offend with smoke in that location. And the reality is that, you know, people are smoking on our sidewalks all over the
Yeah,
place.
I was going to
So,
say, let's be honest, like
yeah.
consumption is happening. Yeah, I can't believe like it's 2026 and
Yeah, so I think that is a suitable way. You know, we've already permitted it. In fact, I was under the impression in their use permit that we had written in a provision that if it was allowed in the municipal code, because of this conflict, we couldn't say, yes, you can do it, but that if it was ever allowed in the municipal code, that they could go ahead and authorize that there. That's not the language that's in their use permit. They'll have to come in for an amendment.
Can you put that back up on the screen, the ordinance or the motion? Because
So
I
the-
would really, you can comment, but I really would like to make this motion and then
I
we
don't
can-
want to make a motion. just wanted to ask a question.
Go ahead.
Can I? Or I can do it after you make
No,
a
go
motion
ahead.
and it's seconded.
I also think Vice Mayor Atkins also would like to make a comment too.
So in this, in this ordinance, would it be allowed to have the outside smoking or not?
Yeah, the ordinance is silent on it. So we would be able to, with this amendment, we'd be able to do an outdoor smoking lounge.
Okay, thank you. And then, so what would happen is somebody wanted to come in and do this, then they would pay their permit fees, it would be evaluated, taken to the planning commission. If it was appealed, then it would come to the council.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
The concerns, before I was able to see it, I had some concerns, but then after reading through it, those concerns were addressed. And just to state what some of them were, one of them were for employees, because that was one of the concerns for why we don't smoke inside, cigarettes inside businesses and such for people that work there. But I saw provisions made for that in this. And then also just the effects of passersby was a concern for me too. And I understand that people smoke outside illegally, but most people don't like whatever the odor is to be accosted with something that you're not into, and especially for children. So that is a valid concern. And even though people might do it illegally, it doesn't mean that we can authorize that. So I liked the provision that said if there were problems or complaints, if someone was trying that it would be addressed and that the people running the lounge would need to fix those. So it seems like it was really well thought out and well done, and the questions I had were answered. So thank you.
Thank you. And I also am comfortable moving forward tonight. As we've discussed, approvals are handled on a case-by-case basis through our planning commission and city authorization. And I'm looking forward to closely looking at the implementation details as they come back for adoption. And it looks like we have somebody on the right of me that would like to make a motion.
And thank you. That was very well presented. Yeah. I would then move to introduce ordinance number 1586, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Arcata amending the Arcata Municipal Code relating to cannabis consumption lounge permits, standards, and restrictions, and to consent to read by title only.
And I will second.
So we have a motion from Councilmember Matthews and a second from Councilmember Schaefer. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I say aye, so the motion passes. Okay, so that brings us then to a public hearing to approve the annual engineer's report and declare the city's intention to continue to levy and collect assessments of 3 existing landscape maintenance assessment districts. And it looks like we have a staff report coming from City Engineer Netra Crabtree, please.
Good evening, Council, again, and good evening, members of the public. Most of them are leaving. But we are here. So this is our routine item. This was also in our last council meeting. I think it got pulled under consent. So this is our, I would say, we do this every year. So this is the public hearing and approval of engineers' report with resolution. So city could continue to collect the assessment from those properties, from those assessment district. Currently, we have 3 assessment districts in City of Arcata, where our city staff provide park services, lighting, and maintenance work. And the assessment collected goes towards covering those costs. So I have a detailed information if you're interested. If not, I'll just pause here and maybe just take the public comments. But as you notice in our last meeting, in one of the subdivision or assessment district, we have spent a lot of money, especially on the Mad River Parkway. We collect only approximately $7,000, but we spent last year $43,000. But that was the combination of our new projects, new park, new pickleball court, parking area. So we will be tracking this again next year and see where we land. And if we have to make some adjustment, we'll bring back to you. But for now, we're just trying to make no changes to the assessments. So with that, I'll pause and I'll take any questions if you may have.
Okay, thank you. So before we open up the public hearing, do we have any questions from council at this time? Okay, so anybody who would like to make a comment on this, please line up at the podium now. Do we have anybody online?
No, we do not.
Okay, so then do we have a motion?
I will make a motion to adopt the 3 resolutions declaring the city's intention to continue to levy and collect assessments, including the Mad River Parkway Business Center Landscape Maintenance Assessment District Resolution Number 256-44, the Janes Creek Meadow Landscape Maintenance Assessment District Resolution Number 256-43, and the Windsong Landscape Maintenance Assessment District Resolution Number 256-42.
I'll second.
Can
Okay,
the-
so
I'm
go ahead.
sorry. I just want to make sure I wrote this down correctly, Vice Mayor. Did I hear correctly at the beginning of your motion to approve the annual engineers reports?
I did not, so I will also make a motion to approve the annual engineers report. Thank you.
I'll still second, yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
So we have a motion from Vice Mayor Atkins-Seltzer and a second from Council Member Matthews. If there's no more discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I say aye, so the motion passes. Okay, so that brings us to public hearing to consider adopting resolution number 256-53, updating the master fee schedule for fiscal year 2026 to 2027. May we have a staff report from Assistant City Manager and Finance Director Tabitha Miller, please?
Good evening again. Good evening again. So we go through this process approximately the second meeting in April every year. It's part of our budget process so that we can update our fees and our fee schedule. The first thing we do is that we consolidate all of the fees into one schedule. You have a 23-page document that's attached to the resolution here. It includes fees that are like our water rates and things that are outside of this process, but we like to put them in one place for customers so they can see everything there. There is a public process that we have to go through to increase fees, and the fees in the fee schedule will all be effective, that anything that's changed July 1st of 2026. The exception to this is the water rates. That goes through the 218 process. We already completed this evening, and those will be in effect on May 1st, and the changes in the wastewater rates will be effective July 1st, just to give you a little bit of background. Overall, our goal is to recover, just like in the water and wastewater rates, just the cost to provide those services and no more. Services are a little bit different than taxes in the sense that taxes are community-wide. Fees are specific to the folks that are benefiting from those services, and so that's why we have the ability at the local level to not have to take it to a vote, and we can approve it and make changes here. As a standard, most years we will simply take our fees and increase them by inflation. We use the West CPI-U average. It was 2.7% between 24 and 25. And for many of our fees, we applied that factor to it. There are other methods that we use. As you're aware, we have the independent fee study and the 218 process for our utilities. Sometimes we will have reduced market rates so that we're competitive. This is used for facility rentals, recreation programs, things like that. A number of our fees are actually regulated by the federal or state governments, and so we have to follow what they set as the standard fee. And there are a couple exceptions, one of them being our building fees. We adjusted by an additional 5% to phase in a cost recovery because we found that we're not close to recovering the cost of those services. And then there are things that we consciously subsidize, family programs, economic development, and sometimes our child programs in our recreation program. I'm not going to read through this, but there are a number of fees that are not increasing this year. And so there's lots of things that remain the same from year to year. This is just a really quick chart, just to give you perspective. About $74.6 million is our revenue projections for 25-26. User fees and charges accounts for about 25% of that at $18.3 million. And as you can see by the chart, because it's based on how much revenue is collected, wastewater and water charges are certainly the vast majority of that. It's about 85% of the total. Planning and building next, recreation fees, stormwater, facility rentals, and then the tiny spot down there in the right-hand corner is the few fees that we collect through our police department. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
I only have one. I wanted to ask you, when you have pool tables in a bar, is that considered a pool room or is it separate?
You know, I will have to get back with you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Because I don't actually have the answer to that.
Well, I saw that here and I'm thinking, you know, so many of our bars have pool tables and I'm just making assumptions. Well, maybe you don't go to those bars. But anyhow, we do have bars that have pool tables and there's quite a few of them. So I was just noticing, I was thinking about that. And
I will certainly get back to you with an answer to that question.
You probably don't have to. It's just, if it's just out of curiosity, I asked that.
Okay. And if there's no more questions, then I'm opening up the public hearing. Do we have any members of the public that would like to comment on this item? Go ahead.
Hi, my name's Joanne McGarry, and there's a quick look at that list of fees that are not changing, and I saw bicycle license. I didn't see dog license. Was that in there?
It was not. Dog licenses are going up.
It's going up. Okay. So those are two issues of kind of, we're not advocating a lot or doing a lot to promote, in my opinion, people getting licenses for their dogs and people licensing their bicycles and bike theft and, you know, dog ownership. I think those are two things that our community, we benefit by having both of those bikes and dogs in our community, but there's a responsibility involved in some of that. And I do think a bicycle license program, and I think there's some sort of state funding opportunities in the bicycle licensing that might actually help us, especially people who are bike owners who are really concerned about losing their bike through theft, that if there's a really solid way that we can license our bicycles that's not too onerous a fee, I think we should be promoting that a lot more. And I really do think we should be promoting dog licensing as a component of responsible pet ownership, and especially reduced fees if the animal's spayed or neutered. So I just really think we kind of neglect those two things more than we promote them. And I think in the future we could promote them better.
Thank you for your comment. My understanding is you can register your bike through APD with the little number that's like on the stem of the seat. At least you used to. I've done it before. So
And can I respond to that too? Because I was just talking about this the other day, and I know Adventure's Edge does it, and I think Revolution does it as well. That if at least, and I know a lot of people don't purchase their bike new locally, but if you do purchase your bike from one of those entities, they save your serial number, they have pictures of your bike, and as it's registered to you, so if it does get stolen, you can go to where you purchased it, get that information, and bring it to APD, which is a really cool service that our local business provides. So.
do we have anybody online that would like to comment on this item?
No, we do not.
Okay. So, do we have a motion or
Well,
any
I would-
final
may I
comments?
just make a
Yes,
comment?
please.
Okay. You know, Joanne is talking about dog licenses, and so I heard a presentation today about the number of birds that are killed on an annual basis and what we've lost population-wise, and so it makes me think maybe we should be licensing cats just because of that. And I know it sounds weird, and I'm just going to throw it out there, but it just makes me think about that. And that we have at the marsh, we have people that they feed the cats, they take care of the cats out there, and some of them are neutered and some are not. And so cats proliferate pretty fast. I think they could have several litters a year, and it's just a thought. I'm just throwing it out. It's a weird thought. Okay.
Any other comments? Okay. All right, so do we have a motion?
Sure. I will make a motion to adopt resolution number 253-5 or 256-53, updating the master fee schedule for fiscal year 2026-2027.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion from Councilmember Schaefer and a second from Councilmember Matthews. So all those in favor?
Aye.
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 And I say aye, so motion passes.
Thank you.
Now we get to go to oral and written communications. Yes? All right. The city council values your comments. The public comment period allows people to address the council on matters not on the agenda. Speakers will be limited to 3 minutes each. Please know that pursuant to the Brown Act, the council cannot discuss or take action on items not listed on the agenda. The council may respond to statements if you are in person and wanting to give public comment. Please line up behind the podium and raise your hand if you are on Zoom, webinar, or press *9 now if you're on the phone line if you'd like to make a public comment. When we move to online public comment, I'm going to ask the city clerk how many hands are raised so that we can proceed from the number that are called at that time. And go ahead, please.
Thank you. My name's Joanne McGarry. Try and talk on 3 things, but I want to finish up what Rose with the bicycle helmet and talking about the microplastics wanted to finish saying, and she wants a ban on weed whackers and leaf blowers. So I just wanted to finish her comment. I was dismayed when I saw the agenda because what I thought was going to happen tonight was a discussion and vote on the Regional Climate Action Plan. And I understand now when I see all these public hearings on matters that there was an anticipation that there would be a lengthy discussion perhaps. And so that issue was delayed. And I'm still dismayed by that. But I do hope it will be on the next agenda and that people are aware of it. And it's an important thing that we're going to be voting on. And so I'm a little dismayed by the lack of public participation in all these public hearings tonight as well. And, maybe people are complacent and all is fine, or they don't really care. But I do, so that's why I come all the time. And so I just thank you for allowing me to be here and speaking in this part of the room on matters. So the Climate Action Plan, I'm really anxious for that to finally get passed. The studies are out and there's not enough time for us to meet our goals, but I really want our community to show a really good effort. So I'm looking forward to that. The discussion about smoking lounges for cannabis, I had some concerns about what is the city of Arcata's smoking regulations, ordinances, laws overall? I did see a map of where people are not allowed to smoke in the downtown area. I was shown a map of that yesterday. And I do think in an equity way that we need to accommodate people who don't have the means perhaps to purchase a product in a dispensary and go into a private lounge there and smoke. And I wonder what the difference is between tobacco and cannabis, and a lot of people combine those now in a smoking way. And I just have noticed that a lot of the unhoused people in the community that I wander around and encounter, and sometimes, oh, I didn't realize it was so short. Was it 3 minutes? Okay. Anyway, something to a lounge area for them.
Thank you for
legal.
your comment. Next.
Hi, Council. Dan Shaheen. I wanted to thank you for your votes tonight. A lot of very thoughtful votes. I thought the cannabis legalization idea is so overdue. Very smart. And I didn't even think about the student angle, that they don't have a legal place to partake of their legal right. So I think that was a great idea. I think concerning the steel water pipe replacement project that's going on, fantastic job by the contractors who I've had a lot of personal interactions with. They're doing a great job in actually reaching out to people, letting them know what's going on in the neighborhood, and just being very nice about it. So I think that those are great. I think that I want to inquire about, and I still want to know, and I apologize if this has been addressed, I missed the last meeting, the fire disaster site in downtown Arcata, and just to have an update, to have any kind of even tentative ETA for when we're going to see relief from that, because it stinks. Like, it's not just that it's an eyesore. There's obviously something really bad going on there, and I know that they have to deal with the legal process of disposing of that with that waste in the proper way, but just hoping for an update on that, if you can provide one. Thanks.
Thank you for your comment. Would you like to do
I'll
an update?
provide an update with my city manager's report on that item.
Okay, great. And do we have anybody online right now?
No, we do not.
Okay, well, that brings us to the city manager report.
Thank you, Mayor White. So I'll start with the fire cleanup. One of the things that we've been doing, and I mentioned this in a previous city manager's report, is really trying to help the property owners. It's private property, it's their responsibility. And so rather than, push the issue and accelerate and put a lot of pressure on those property owners, we've done the opposite. We've been meeting with them regularly, helping to understand what they need to do, bring on a contractor, what the permitting process is. And the good news is they're very close right now. I believe they will sign a contract in the next week. They have draft contracts, which they've indicated they intended to sign. And my hope is that they would get those signed, and then within 4 weeks or so, plus or minus. Again, I can't commit. This is not our work. I can't commit, so I'm not speaking on behalf of the property owners. This is what my understanding is of what would happen. But theoretically, the contractor would mobilize once they get their personnel and equipment in order in about 4 weeks. And then the project cleanup will take about 4 weeks. And one of the things we've committed to do on our side is to accelerate that permitting process. There will be some issues, like when you're bringing in trucks and you're removing equipment, it's going to be a disruption to the traffic flow. So we'll be thinking about closing roads and doing what we can to expedite that, and then coordinating meetings with County Environmental Health, who has a responsibility for hazardous waste cleanup. And so they've indicated that they'll get with the contractor and come and work with them to get a plan approved quickly. So all the things are falling into place, and I appreciate the community's patience with those property owners. This is a tough thing for them, and I appreciate them sharing their thought process and their finances and things with city staff so that we can help them and think about ways to move it forward. In other news, there's just a few other things I'd like to mention. One, we do expect to bring the climate action plan to the next council meeting. There's a lot of moving parts to that, and we want to be very thoughtful. So we're thinking about that from a staff perspective, but right now it's currently penciled in for our next council meeting. Also had the honor to sit in on a hearing with administrators with the state university system for the accreditation of Cal Poly Humboldt. And it's just great that they, with Councilmember Stillman, it's great that they include us in those things. We had a homeless services working group meeting today, and I'm sure some of our council members report on that. But one of the things that I find has a lot of potential is we've had a lot of discussions with the county mobile intervention service teams lately. They have received a new funding source, so they don't need money to come work in Arcata. Their primary obstacle is more staff right now, and so they are advertising for staff positions, but they've shown a real interest in coming and working with the city, working with Arcata House. We're also interested in connecting them with our ambassadors. They'll be visiting our ambassadors on the 30th, and we're thinking about ways that we can separate crisis intervention from police contacts, and everybody seems to be on board. There seems to be a real alignment for that, and so I'm excited that this is moving forward. This is the second meeting we had with them today, and so I think there's a lot of real potential there. And then the other thing is there's been some real funding challenges and funding cut from Arcata House for the services that they provided, the Andex for the day center, which include like mail, showers, other things. And so we're talking with Darlene Spohr, we're talking with the county. It looks like the county will be able to reinstate some funds, but those are vital services that are provided for the homeless community. And so appreciate working with Arcata House to make sure to not provide a gap in those services, even though some of the hours and staffing are diminished, but they seem very committed. And so I appreciate working with them as a community partner. And that's all I have.
Thank you for that update. All right, so that brings us to council reports. All reports shall be specifically limited to items relating to city business and shall not request or lead to action by councils at this meeting. How about I start on the left this time? Sure.
Okay, so, well, first of all, I would like to mention that this weekend is the beginning of the Godwit Days Migratory Bird Festival, and we already are starting with trips tomorrow, but we'll be in the community center on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And the other thing is that in the hallway now, because it's going to be Preservation Month in May, and we have historic properties that are on the National Register of Historic Places that are now in the hallway framed, and they were done by Tom Bethune, Bethune. Is how I'm not too sure how you pronounce his name correctly, but he's a photographer, and he came to us because he was interested in what had happened with the buildings that were burnt, and he had a lot of photographs about that. And so I met with him, and we came up with the idea that we should do something around Preservation Month, and that we should look at our National Register nominations. And so that's what you'll find there. Also, I wanted to mention that Startup Humboldt, they're going to have the Shark Tank, and that is where they have applicants been applying for the $200,000 for their project. This will be handled differently than it's been in the past. And so if you win that, then you'll be incrementally given your funding. We used to have another program that years ago ran at Humboldt, Cal Poly, and people got their funds and then they maybe did their project or maybe they didn't. But in this case, it will be happening. If you're interested in going and seeing who those winners are, it'll be on April 23rd. It's at 6 o'clock and it'll be at the Eureka Theater. Another concern that I was told on the Air Resources Control Board, North Coast Regional Air Resources Control Board, anyway, is that they're concerned about the particles that are coming off of the fire area. And I noticed today, or maybe it was yesterday, that a swath has been pushed in, and I'm sure that they're still doing investigations on that property, trying to figure out what's going on. When I went to the dentist, they told me, they're cleaning up the property. And I said, are you sure? I think it's the steel pipe replacement project. And of course it is the steel pipe, but I think they're also excited to be able to have that cleaned up, that they were sure that's what was going on. I went to the Planned Parenthood event, and it was very successful, but what I wanted to mention is that I had an individual come up and talk to me about Northtown and Hatcher, and they're very concerned about that project up in Northtown, and they're gathering together as a community, and they feel like they're really well connected as a community to come to the council about that issue. This individual also told me that one of his friends rented to Hatcher, and that it was a difficult situation. So I just wanted to alert you that that could actually come towards us. And I don't know what we want to do about it, but I just am letting you know. Thank you.
Thanks. So we've all been attending some budget study sessions. I had my monthly Humboldt Waste Management Authority meeting. Many of us also attended the League of Women Voters luncheon. And then today we had the Homeless Services meeting, and there were a couple of announcements. I did express when we were talking about MIST on behalf of council and our community that we've been talking, well, since some of us 2020 when we were here about, really wanting clinicians. And so we've been looking for that path forward, and our community wants that. And so whatever we can do to make that happen. And right now they're trying to hire for it. But we are really working with them to get some, like clinicians. And they've been working in our community, but they're not Arcata specific. And there's really only a few of them that are covering the entire county. It's actually ridiculous. So they're trying to hire more folks with the funding they have so they can offer more services. But a couple of things that are coming up on April 25th, which is not this coming weekend, but next, it is the spring day for donations for Arcata House Partnership at the Annex. And there's a flyer that's circulating about, but this is a great time to donate. Some of the things they need are new socks and underwear for men's and men's shirts and jackets, size large and up, men's pants, sizes 32 and up, blankets, toys, rain gear, garden tools, seeds, and bulbs. And so that's some things that people can do, and to clean out your closets and help some folks. And there's also a film that'll be happening at the Arcata Playhouse on April 29th from 4 to 6. And it's called No Place to Grow Old. And it's about older folks experiencing homelessness for the first time. And today, usually our homeless services meetings are usually depressing. And today, Darlene shared that she had 2 people in their 80s come in that are now, for the first time in their life, homeless. And what a tragedy that is in this country, that people can become homeless at any time, and especially in your 80s. So I guess on that note, I'll pass it along.
Okay, all the things are coming up next week mostly. Earlier this month, though, I did have the opportunity to attend one of Equity Arcata's safety and planning meetings it's the second meeting that we've had, just kind of around ICE response and how to provide support to community members and how to kind of communicate across, different, the city. And our police chief was there. This was the first time that the county sheriff Hansel joined us, so it was interesting, I think, maybe for him to hear kind of from us and what what folks in Arcata and the university are thinking, and just to also kind of hear what can and cannot the sheriff can and cannot do, and how the county kind of has and would work with DHS, just kind of surrounding people in the jail system. And so it was enlightening to hear that perspective. And I think it was good for him to hear from Equity Arcata and hear from the university and kind of just hear kind of what our police chief is doing as well. So that was a good conversation. And I think we will continue to hold those meetings as we can and kind of bring more of those partners together. We had folks from the Humboldt County Office of Ed there as well. And Centro del Pueblo had attended the previous one. They weren't able to come to this one, but bringing a lot of folks together. So that was a good meeting. And yeah, our CEA is next week. Equity Arcade is next week. I will attend the Young Professionals Mixer tomorrow that the chamber is putting on at Humbrew's from 6 to 8 p.m. They've been doing these in addition to their regular business mixers. So it's a great opportunity for the younger business folks in the community to get together. And that's all I got.
Yeah, I'm too old for that. But it's still open for everybody, but it is geared toward the younger population. But they're a lovely thing that they're doing. Let's see. So as we're talking about the fire and fire relief, I am a part of the committee that all of the generous donations that have come in from the community. Thank you so much. It's raised so much money. I am part of the group that is dispersing those funds. So we have an application for the businesses that were affected, and they've been filled out, and those disbursements have started to the businesses that were affected. And I know that the chamber will put out a letter to the donors letting them know where the funds have gone to, but all of these businesses that have applied for those funds are starting to see that funding come through. Also, if you have not gotten a chance to go into Jacoby's Storehouse and see the beautiful new display in the center that was done by a Yurok basket weaver, the Tree of Life display, it is absolutely lovely and a wonderful addition to the storehouse. I encourage you to go check that out. And while you're there, Plaza Grill reopened tonight. Really wonderful to see Bill again in action. What else? The Humboldt International Film Festival is next weekend, the 23rd to the 26th, and those are student-chosen animated films. My son may have had a part in choosing those, so go check that out. And everybody else took my things, so we're good. No, it's all good.
Okay. So, yeah, lots of repeating. I did also attend the League of Women Voters annual luncheon, and it was great. They honored local community members. We had featured speakers on civic engagement, including Mike Wilson representing our district and Susan Seaman from North Edge, formerly AEDC. I attended a California Association of Governments meeting, and the board is supporting funding for housing planning and pushing back on policies that could limit some local flexibility or reduce road funding. Tomorrow I have an HCOG meeting, which is the Humboldt County Organization of Association of Governments, and the board will be reviewing road and pavement planning, consider bike and pedestrian funding, and then we'll receive updates on regional transportation priorities. Also want to invite everyone to come celebrate the new free little library adopted by CUNA, Comunidad Unidad del Norte de Arcata. Big thank you to the Rotary Club of Arcata Sunrise and Shoshana Rose for the free little library. That will happen on Friday morning, along with the Arcata Chamber for the ribbon cutting for that library. And it will be at 8:30 for a celebration and 9 o'clock for the ribbon cutting itself. And that's at the Valley West Park on Howland Drive. Also, this Friday at 6 p.m., CUNA is partnering with the North Coast Growers Association for the month's free What's Cooking Culinary Arts program. So come join for a delightful experience filled with fresh, local grown produce harvest box theme evening and a wonderful community atmosphere with Chef James Taylor of the North Coast Growers Association and owner of the Loca or pop-up. Hope to see you there. And then next week, CUNA will be hosting its very first Loteria, which is a Latinx bingo. For more information, go ahead on social media or website. It's CUNA Comes Together on all platforms. And finally, once again, I have the honor of speaking about living in Humboldt and being a resident of Arcata this Saturday morning, bright and early, at Cal Poly's Humboldt Second Spring Preview this year. Dates of future meetings and future agenda items. We'll be confirming a fiscal year 2026-2027 budget study for April 29, 2026. That will be at 3:30 p.m. in the council chamber. And I believe, unless anyone has anything to add, this meeting is adjourned.